Guardian Takedown has been out for 4.5 years now, being released in June of 2020, and to this day is still regarded as the most difficult content in Borderlands 3, with the tankiest mob enemies and some of the tankiest bosses. As such, there are still a lot of players who haven't beaten it, and even more players who have only beaten it once and never even bothered trying again. Hopefully this video can change that. Hey Vault Hunters, I'm Constant Canadian, and this is my best tips, tricks, and skips to make the Guardian Takedown easy. If you enjoy this video or find it helpful, be sure to leave a like and subscribe, as it really helps out the channel. And if you really enjoy it, consider joining the membership program. 99 cents a month gets you a shoutout at the end of my videos, as well as these cute emotes and awesome sub badges. And for $4.99 a month, you get all that, plus early access to most of my videos. Let's start off with the skips. There is a surprising amount of content that can just straight up be skipped regarding the Guardian Takedown. In fact, the only mandatory sections in this takedown are the first mobbing section, the crystals, and the boss fights. Every one of these skips can be done by any Vault Hunter on any platform with only 25% extra movement speed, and without Mayhem modifiers, so it can be done on Mayhem 11. Some skips can be done better with more movement speed, which requires a bit more gear on certain Vault Hunters. Huge shout out to Garwood on YouTube and Cabbagehead PhD on Reddit for finding these skips. Anyways, let's just get into the skipping. The first skip is probably the most well known and easiest to do. It is right after the first crystal section. This door at the end of all this mobbing can be phased straight through by crouching and then climbing up the left side of the frame. Very easy and very straightforward. The next skip is immediately after the last one. There's actually 3 versions of this skip, depending on your movement speed bonuses. The first one, if you're a Mara with 6 points in mindfulness and a spiritual driver, you can activate phase cast, and once you've built up 25 stacks of mindfulness, you can just jump the gap entirely. The second version of this skip is for characters who only have plus 50% move speed, which is easy on Zane, but can be achieved on Flak and Moze with a double roll movement speed artifact and a super soldier shield or fadeaway. This version of the skip does require a low levels Ruby's Wrath for rocket jumping, as do most of the skips in this video. To do this version of the skip, get your 50% movement speed built up, then you can run into this pillar and shoot your Ruby's Wrath. This should throw you straight into the hole into Anathema's arena. The third and final version of this skip can be done and should be done with 0 bonuses to movement speed. We're again going to require the Ruby's Wrath here. For this skip, immediately jump down to the lower area of the map, then run over to this pillar, and if done properly, you should be able to rocket jump up the pillar, and from there you can just jump into the hole into Anathema's arena. The rocket jump here is a little difficult to get right, but I found looking slightly down from straight usually puts me in the right spot to get the jump. After the Anathema fight, there's another completely optional mobbing section that can be completely skipped. There are 2 versions of this skip as well, depending on your move speed. For the first version, you need at least 25% move speed and a Ruby's Wrath. When you come out of this door, run straight to the section where the platforms spawn, run to this spot, then shoot the ground with the Ruby's Wrath. And you'll be just able to mount onto the bottom of this floating island, at which point you can climb up and use the jump booster into the second crystal section. The second version of the skip is for characters with 50% movement speed or more. Same general deal, but instead you're going to jump and shoot this pillar with the Ruby's Wrath, which will throw you straight onto the floating island. After the second crystals phase has ended, the game expects you to go through quite possibly the worst mobbing section of the entire takedown. This area is completely stupid. There's holes everywhere and stupid jumps that will sometimes just glitch out and kill you. Now, there are skips utilizing the Ruby's Wrath, but those all require movement speed buffs that aren't super easily achievable on certain characters, and it also requires some pretty crazy flicks which are just straight up impossible on console. So instead of doing the rocket jumps in this area, we're going to completely forego this area. To do this skip, jump up on this rock, mantle onto this rock here, then mantle onto this ledge, walk up the door frame making sure to crouch under the ceiling, then you need to jump onto the top of this pillar, mantle onto the other ledge of the door frame, about halfway up this side of the door, you can drop down on this stone platform, mantle onto this ledge here, then run all the way to the top of the frame. Now you can just jump straight through this wall, and once you land, run straight through until you come across this vault-shaped architecture. Turn slightly right and continue to walk. Aiming for this line on the rock here. Now just continue along this line until you come across a hole in the ground directly above the statue. Drop down the hole and you'll land directly on the ramp to Scourge's arena. This skip completely bypasses all of the mobbing in this area and all the areas that, despite being fixed, are still pretty janky. Now, if you are on PC and want to do the rocket jump skips, then just know you need at least 50% movement speed. On Amar and Zane, this is easy. On Flak, you can use Fadeaway and a Super Soldier or a double move speed artifact. And for Moze, the only way I've been able to achieve plus 50% move speed is with a Super Soldier shield and a double move speed artifact. So for some characters, it's very gear specific. Or you can torture yourself and play on Mayhem 10 for the Speed Demon modifier. To do these skips, run over to this area here. And you're going to want to jump and shoot at this pillar with the Ruby's Wrath at around the same time. This will launch you into the middle platform fairly easy. Now, to skip the middle platform to the ramp leading to Scourge's arena, this is by far the hardest rocket jump of this takedown, since you have to jump off the platform, look behind you, and shoot the ground that you just jumped off of in very quick succession. If done properly, you'll land on this rock here, which you can then rocket jump up onto the ramp and finally slide down the ramp into Scourge's arena. Those are all the skips, at least that I know of, for the Guardian takedown, but there's still a bunch of useful tips and tricks to help out struggling players. The first piece of advice I have to give, and I know it's cliche and you've probably heard it many times before, but the best way to kill things faster and better is to use better weapons and a better build. Guardian takedown mobs are literally the tankiest in the game. Each enemy in this takedown has as much health as a crew challenge mini-boss, so having a well-optimized build is far more important here than anywhere else. Now, different weapons perform differently on different Volt Hunters and different builds, but some pretty general recommendations are the Reflux, the Free Radical, the Plasma Coil, the Backburner, the Plague Bearer. Pretty much anything that is considered an S tier weapon will help a ton for clearing out the insanely tanky mobs. This takedown is the ultimate test, and a half-baked build won't work here. Considering that the crystal phases are most of the mandatory combat in this takedown, they're a pretty big point of failure for players attempting it. If any of these crystals discharge completely, the run ends instantly. No fight for your life, no checkpoint, just straight reset. The best strategy I've found for keeping the crystals charged is to initially only focus one crystal. The Guardians won't spawn until you've entered the charging box of the crystal, so trying to charge all three at once makes it way harder. So just start with one crystal. I recommend one of the side crystals so the remaining two are closer together. Once the first crystal is fully charged, charge another one. While you charge the second crystal, keep an eye on the third crystal. And once the third crystal gets low on charge, you can run over to charge it back up. These crystals charge way faster when they're low on charge, so keeping two crystals at 30% is way easier than trying to keep them both at 70%. The second phase is honestly a bit easier to manage as most of the enemies can't follow you from platform to platform, but the same strategy still stands. Another great way to make crystals easier is to draw aggro somehow. Flak's Red Fang class mod works very well for this. Zane and Moze could use their clone or auto bear respectively, or even the Mesmer from the 6th DLC could help to draw aggro away from yourself and thus the crystals while you charge them. The final boss of this takedown, Scourge, is incredibly tanky. They're quite literally the second tankiest boss outside of True Trials. This, combined with the health regen between phases, makes the fight take a very long time. Thankfully, that's where the schismatic diadems come in. In between sections of health, Scourge will teleport to the middle of the room and start charging up an energy burst. During this move, Scourge becomes immune and spawns 2 schismatic diadems, 8 if you're playing on True Takedown. It took me a very long time to realize this, but if you detonate a schismatic diadem near Scourge, it'll skip their immune phase and cancel their energy burst. But we can break this even further though. If you detonate the schismatic diadems one at a time, then you can use one to break Scourge's immunity phase, and then use the other one to deal a bunch of damage to Scourge's health bar. This detonation will take out almost half of the armor section and just over half of the shield section. Using the schismatic diadems strategically makes a huge difference in the difficulty of the Scourge fight. Guardian Takedown is a massive challenge, even for more experienced players. So hopefully this guide helps make that struggle a little bit easier. Thank you all so much for watching, have a fantastic day.